So today we're going to jump into Unit 5, Lesson 23, continuing our conversation on this comparison of how the fall of the Han Dynasty and the Roman empires impacted their territories long after their fall. For your do now, you're going to compare the impact of the fall of the Han and Roman empires on government in their regions. This is a review from the previous lesson. The 4 impacts that you're going to determine if it's Han, Roman, or both is 1, the empire split into multiple independently governed kingdoms. 2, it had an army and strong central leadership which attempted to fight the foreign tribes. 3, were not able to protect their lands from foreign tribes. And 4, reunified under central leadership. Go ahead and pause your video at this time and complete your do now. So, let's see how you did. The first one is both. For both the Han Dynasty and the Roman Empire, the empire split into multiple independently governed kingdoms. The second, where the army and strong central leadership attempted to fight foreign tribes, that's specifically the Han Dynasty. At this point in history, the Roman Empire did not have a strong central leadership, and their army was kind of lacking at this point as well. For the third, they were not able to protect their lands from foreign tribes. That's the Roman Empire. They continued to deal with barbarian invasions, and it kept breaking down their empire more and more. And the last one, reunified under central leadership, that's the Han Dynasty. Under the Jin Dynasty, they are able to finally reunify their territory. The Romans are never able to really truly recover from breaking up and fragmenting into these smaller, independently governed kingdoms, particularly in the Western Roman Empire. So our objective today is to compare the impact of the fall of the Han Dynasty and the Roman Empire on religion. So we're going to shift gears a little bit here and take a look at religion rather than government. So basically what we're doing is we're finding the similarities and differences in the influence of the fall of both the Han and Roman empires on religion, which we know is a set of beliefs that usually deal with morality and human beings' relationships to a higher power. In the case of Christianity and Buddhism, which is our 2 main religions that we've been talking about in this unit, there is a one singular monotheistic deity or God for both of these religions. So let's do a little bit of a review about both of these religions and how they're coming into the territories. So for our first map, we're looking at the spread of Buddhism through Asia. Buddhism began in India around 500 BCE. Then, Buddhism first came to China in around 100 CE when the Silk Road connected different people in Asia through trade. The red arrows below show the spread of Buddhism beginning in 300 CE following the fall of the Han Dynasty. I want you to take this time, review the map and the information at the top of your map, and answer the 2 questions on your worksheet. The first being, where did Buddhism begin? And the second, what first brought Buddhism to China? So review your map and pause the video at this time to complete those questions. Moving on to our second map, this discusses the spread of Christianity through Europe and Asia. This is the spread of Christianity particularly in 325 to 600 CE. This is really important to pay attention to because we know that Christianity has already been on the scene for around 300 years before the start of the data on this map, right? And the thing you want to pay attention to as you analyze this map is, how does Christianity seem to be spreading? Look at how the arrows fall when you're dealing with different waterways and trade routes and what we know about these big civilizations and how they develop along the water. So take some time and answer the questions on your worksheet that deal with the second map at this time. So go ahead and pause your video. Next, you have a short stop and jot activity. You're going to jot down, how is the spread of Buddhism different from the spread of Christianity based off of these 2 maps? This is just what you think. Specifically, if you have specific evidence that you can use, awesome. Otherwise, I really just want to see your thoughts on this. Why do you think the spread of Buddhism is different from the spread of Christianity based off of the information we have here? So go ahead and pause your video and complete your stop and jot activity at this time. All right, so let's go ahead and start digging into our documents. All right, document A is a statement of scholar Zidun written in 350 CE. He's the author and advisor of Chinese aristocrats and government officials during the period when northern China was invaded by foreign tribes. All right, let's take a look at our document. Whosoever in China, in this era of human pleasures, serves the Buddha and correctly observes the commandments, who recites the Buddhist scriptures, and who furthermore makes a vow to be reborn without ever abandoning his sincere intention, will at the end of his life, when his soul passes away, be miraculously transported. He will behold the Buddha and be enlightened in his spirit, and then he will enter nirvana. Nirvana, of course, being the end of desire or eternal peace. So when we're looking at this document, we want to keep our objective in mind. We're trying to figure out what the impact or influence was of the fall of the Han Dynasty on the religion of Buddhism, right? So the main issue that we're seeing with this document is the desires of people on earth that satisfy immediate needs. The document refers to this as human pleasures, right? These desires don't address long-term morality or knowing the difference between right and wrong, and the afterlife. It doesn't deal with these two really important concepts. So, what the author is saying is anyone in China who practices Buddhism correctly will reach or obtain nirvana. Again, nirvana is the end of desire or eternal peace, right? So this deals with that afterlife element, and it also deals with this idea of not being overtaken in your life by trying to pursue pleasures or like trying to constantly immediately satisfy needs, right? You're not going to have these desires or wants anymore, right? So what does practicing Buddhism correctly look like according to this text? It's reciting the Buddhist scriptures and vowing with sincerity. So really being truly intentional about wanting to be reborn and making a vow to do so. So at this time, go ahead and feel free to review your document, answer the questions, and create your central idea for document A. You may pause your video and complete that at this time. Right, for document C, we're going to jump back over to China. This is an excerpt from the chapter on the Western regions of the Book of the Latter Han, written around 500 CE, after Buddhism had spread to China. The tale below was based on a report to the emperor from 125 CE, a period of time prior to the spread of Buddhism. Emperor Ming saw in a dream a god whose body was bright and shining and who flew before his palace, and he cheered at this. The next day he asked his officials, "What god is this?" A scholar said, "I have heard that in India there is someone who has attained peace and who is called Buddha. He flies in the air and his body had the brilliance of the sun. This must be that god." So, the emperor sent ambassadors to India to ask about the Buddha's teaching, after which paintings and statues of the Buddha appeared in China. The emperor commanded Buddhist monks to join him in the capital city, and he used his powers to, with their words, create a temple to the Buddha. So this is a really interesting text, all right? It's a story about this emperor prior to the spread of Buddhism who has this vision, this appearance of a god in a dream, all right, who's bright and shining, and a scholar says, "Hey, sounds like a dude from India called the Buddha," right? Out of his response to this dream that he has about the Buddha, he sends ambassadors out to India to try to go to the source so he can really truly understand who this person, who the Buddha is, and what the teachings are that the Buddha is wanting him to follow, right? After this, and the people return, art and a temple start to appear in China that are honoring the Buddha and also starts to help with this conversion of people into the Buddhist tradition. So when you're considering your objective, how is the fall of the Han Dynasty and the instability and the emperor, in this case, how is that leading to this impact in religion, right? How is it affecting Buddhism? Is Buddhism taking off? Is it spreading? Is it kind of shrinking back and like decreasing in popularity? What's happening here? So go ahead at this time and pause your video and jot down the answers to your questions and your central idea. All right, so moving on to document D, this is our last document for today's lesson. This is an excerpt from the life of Palestine, written in 314 CE by the historian Eusebius. Right, he was a bishop from Palestine, and the tale describes the vision Constantine had before going to battle. He said that he saw the sign of the cross of light in the heavens, and it was inscribed with, "By this symbol you will conquer." He was struck with amazement by the sight. Then, in his sleep, Jesus Christ appeared to him with the same sign which he had seen in the heavens, and commanded him to use the sign as a safeguard in all battles with his enemies. Constantine's army won the war in this case. Therefore, Constantine resolved to worship no other god than him who had appeared to him. So he sent for Christians. The emperor personally invited priests to spend time with him. He showered them with every possible honor. He let them join him at table, even though they were dressed so plainly, because he did not look at the outer man, but saw the God within him. All right, so again, this is another kind of interesting text compared to a lot of the ones we've read in this class, because this is a story that's supposed to be an account of this emperor having a vision, a couple of visions technically. He has this vision on the battlefield of the sign of the cross in the sky, and then he also is visited in a dream by Jesus, telling him, hey, like, I'm behind you, I'm going to help you win this war. And then historically, Constantine actually won the war. So what's interesting here is, of course, historians and scholars question if he actually had this experience, or if this vision was, really just a normal dream, or if he didn't really even have a dream and he's just trying to justify his actions. There's a lot of debate here, but what is really interesting is they can tell through history that Constantine did actually win this war. All right, so it's very interesting. So he sees this cross, he has the dream about Jesus, he wins the battle by when he uses the cross. So he has no reason to believe that this wasn't an authentic experience. And then he becomes a Christian, and he calls for priests to come into his kingdom, and he honors them greatly, right? He treats them really well, even though they're not anywhere near the social class that he is. They don't have the resources he has. But it's a really, really big change compared to what we've seen previously when we've talked about Christianity in Rome. Constantine is truly the emperor that makes Christianity the widespread religion in Rome, and it causes a pretty big stir. We're talking about the people who several hundred years prior had been persecuting Christians pretty profoundly. If you remember the stories of Caesar Nero covering Christians in tar and lighting them on fire in his gardens, there was some really serious stuff going on in Rome and in the Roman Empire. Christianity was not a very welcomed thing. So now we see something that's completely opposite. So what I want you to do now is take this time, pause your video, and answer the questions and jot down your central idea for document B, and then we'll wrap up today's lesson. Alrighty, so just to summarize what we learned today, right? Again, we're comparing the influence of the fall of the Han Dynasty and the Roman Empire on religion. So let's see what we learned, right? For the Han Dynasty, Buddhism promised enlightenment or nirvana, right? Emperor Ming dreams of the Buddha and becomes fascinated with the religion, right? They're seeing this idea of an afterlife, of being freed from these immediate needs and desires and seeking after pleasure. All right, so we see a very big shift in the Han Dynasty. In the Roman side of things, we see that Christianity promises the kingdom of heaven to those who are righteous, and ultimately eternal punishment for people that are not so righteous. Then we see in document D that Emperor Constantine sees the sign of a cross, has a dream of Jesus, becomes a Christian, and then it radically changes how he rules the Byzantine Empire. Right? He completely changes his beliefs on Christianity and really starts to make changes for this religion. All right? Similarity-wise, both of these religions give people hope for the afterlife, And they give people hope for after the fall of these empires, right? When your government's collapsing around you, people aren't feeling very secure. These religions give them that sense of security that they didn't have before. In both cases, these religions and the spread of these religions are supported wholeheartedly by the emperors, right? Emperor Ming sends out people to go get resources from India, and they come back and he starts helping produce art and build temples to honor the Buddha. In the Roman side of things, we have Constantine welcoming in these priests and religious men and having them really start to feel established and safe so that they can continue to build the religion throughout the Byzantine Empire. So basically, both the fall of the Han and the fall of Rome led to the popularity of both of these new religions due to the hope that they could provide people. So, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I love discussing religion with you guys. I'm really excited to chat with you about it in our Zoom class period. If you have any questions, make sure you jot them down and are ready for me. Otherwise, I will see you soon, and I hope that you enjoyed learning about how religion was really impacted by these two dynasties / empires.